Hello and welcome to my non-spoiler review of Deadpool and Wolverine. Because it's so important, I feel, to your movie-going experience, I've been extra careful to make sure there isn't even a hint of a spoiler in this review. And I encourage you, I implore you to be very vigilant yourself when it comes to avoiding spoilers. Because this was my best theater experience since Infinity War and Endgame. In fact, this morning, I saw someone online who I had a very nice interaction with as well on Twitter post the Cap Mjolnir sequence and, with the audience going crazy. My audience never went that crazy, but I did. I went that crazy in my seat. I was more interactive with this movie than I was for Infinity War or Endgame because it's the XMen fan in myself. It was incredible. I was just blown away, as was my audience, with many of the reveals and sequences. So to get back to that, to me, is just so exciting. But we're living in a very different world than 2019. And social media has become impossibly aggressive. You've seen it. There are not only screenshots these days, but actual scenes themselves uploaded to social media the weekend, the day, sometimes days before, because the movie has a domino effect, or staggered, that's the word, a staggered rollout globally. So some countries are getting the movie right now, and they're quickly uploading scenes and screenshots online. So you're just innocently scrolling, movie ruined. So be careful. Please be careful. I had just such a great time. Now, I thought this movie would be good, but I didn't think it would be this good, which was really one of the most pleasant surprises. And it's just what Marvel and I think the comic book movie genre overall needs right now. It's almost in some ways, interestingly enough, a little bit like The Boys, in that it not only goes hard with its R rating, but also with its commentary and frankness. Although I would say that while The Boys is very bleak, Deadpool and Wolverine is ultimately a very hopeful film. I mean, this is Marvel and Disney after all, but not hopeful in the negative way where you're like, come on, this movie takes risks, but it also makes you feel good, which has been one of the cornerstones, I think, of the MCU. And so I think that all is very on brand. But all the rules and formulas that have just been weighing down the genre and that we're just exhausted from, they are called out and torn down. And that is immensely satisfying. Oh, it feels good. But at the same time, while it's tearing all that stuff down, as I said, Deadpool and Wolverine is also still a very hopeful and positive film. A love letter, not only to these characters, but to their fans. Oh, I felt the love. I felt the love and the respect. Thank you very much. Like with XMen 97, the recent XMen 97 show, some of the comic book references here are insane and made me giddy with joy. That's right, giddy. I will never forget, and we'll talk about it in the spoiler review, I will never forget some of the comic book, some people would argue obscure references that were made here, and that they did them and did them so well. It made me so happy. I couldn't get over. I was higher than Cloud 9, the highest tippy top cloud there is. I was so happy. And so often with the slow motion and the camera movement, it creates these tableaus, as we know from many slow motion sequences in movies. But again, here it felt like looking at comic book covers and panels brought to life. There's one shot in particular. I was like that, a lot of them, but one in particular, which I was like, oh man, that's so beautiful. It belongs in the Louvre. Oh, it was gorgeous. Also, there's one big action sequence in the third act where actually that tableau is. And it's done to a new version of Madonna's Like a Prayer. Madonna at the premiere last night. But it's such an incredible action sequence and full of so much comic booky goodness that I was literally singing along, jumping up and down in my seat as an adult, and clapping my hands, literally clapping my hands with excitement because I was like, it's a party. I got to throw a party right now. I'm sorry. There was, on one side of me, there actually wasn't somebody sitting there. Very crowded, but last night there was not only the New York City press screening, but also the New York City premiere. So I think that created not as jam-packed a room. But it was all, the IMAX at Lincoln Square was, I would say, 95% full. But on one side of me, there wasn't anybody sitting. But on the, which I loved, I like a little space. The IMAX is very tightly packed at Lincoln Square. But then the guy next to me was, I loved how like he was very well behaved. So that was great while I was watching the movie, but like he didn't like blob over into my seat or anything. You know the drill. When you see like someone like that coming, you're like, "Ooh, excellent seatmate, thank you." But at the same time, I wondered how he felt about my deciding to go full comic book nerd at the end of the movie. I either slightly annoyed him or my enthusiasm was infectious. I hope it was the latter because I knew it might bother him a little bit, but I was like, I'm having such a good time. I must express myself. I was respectful. I think I was throwing a respectful party in my seat. Deadpool and Wolverine to me joins the very first Avengers and the recent The Batman as the comic book movies that I feel best capture the experience of reading the actual comics that they're based on. Where you can turn to your friends who don't read comics and go, see, that's what it's supposed to be like. Even comics themselves aren't as good these days, which is unfortunate. But this took me right back to why I fell in love with comics in the first place. Oh. Now, the movie is obviously extremely meta, but I was not prepared for how sharp it is. Oh, it's sharp. It's razor sharp, baby. The craftsmanship level is insane on every single level. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so perfectly assembled. No spoilers. I'm just saying assembled because it's Marvel. It's just a fun little shout out. I'm not giving anything away. I've been very careful here. But as I tweeted, no notes. No notes at all. I don't have even a minor quibble with how this movie came together. And it wasn't even what I expected, which I ended up loving. And this is a perfect example of not only giving the audience what they want, but also, even more so, giving the audience what they don't yet know that they want. I was like, I did not expect this direction for the movie, but I love it. Deadpool continues to not only be Ryan Reynolds' signature role, but his skills as a businessman here are also on full display. And I think it's no accident that he is the one with this film to bring the MCU back on track, focused again. This movie grabs the MCU by the collar and says, "Focus, what's wrong with you?" Boom, 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 boom. It was just great. And Reynolds is not just a breath of fresh air, but I would say this movie is a seismic event that, again, as I said, brings the MCU back into sharp focus. So this is a non-spoiler review. So what are we going to talk about? How about your burning questions? All right, so first up, how are the cameos? Again, no spoilers. But I would say the cameos are actually amazing, even though they are not at all what you would expect. Reynolds knows the Deadpool brand extremely well, and he picked the cameos that best fit his brand. I also appreciate that some of the cameos involve a decent amount of screen time and really service the story. So that makes them all the more effective. They're not as iconic, I would say, as the No Way Home cameos, but they're far more satisfying than the cameos in Multiverse of Madness. Most importantly, again, I think Reynolds and his team picked cameos that would not only be fun for us, but also that they could really have fun with, characters they would be allowed to play with. And boy, do they. Oh, they're just so funny. This movie's so funny. So funny. All right, does it feel like Deadpool and Wolverine have joined the MCU? Well, again, this is a non-spoiler review. So I'll just say that tonally, it definitely feels that way. Like Kevin Feige himself, Ryan Reynolds has just so many more toys to play with, and that makes Deadpool feel more like Deadpool than ever before. This is also the most comics-accurate Wolverine we've ever gotten. It's beautiful. You have no idea how comics accurate this is. I am almost jealous of those of you who have not experienced it yet. You get to experience it for the first time. There are sequences here I could watch on a loop. They are definitely going to end up on social media. I'm so scared for you. All right, and it reminds me of the early days of the MCU when the characters not only seemed to leap off the comic book page, but dare I say it, were improved. I'd also like to add that visually it feels much more like the MCU, with the 90s-esque color tones and production design of the Fox Marvel movies replaced with ones that feel very MCU, but in the good old positive ways instead of the now kind of cheap, lazy, half-ass ways. This movie, though, looks really expensive. And it was! It's the most expensive Deadpool movie to date. And while part of that is because of the delays of the strikes, they had to stop and start again, still, Feige put his money where the merc's mouth is. And I really appreciated it. It was delightful. Are there any end credit scenes? Well, there are technically two, but one is just a behind-the-scenes reel, which is very charming, and the feels that plays over the credits. But then there's a regular end credit scene, which is what you're really asking about, at the very end of the movie. It doesn't make any future promises, but instead it's just, again, like the movie itself, very funny. And it's a callback to something in the film that happened. I thought it was very effective. But I'm glad it's not a promise for another day, because mostly Marvel hasn't been delivering on those promises lately. Is this really the beginning of the X-Men in the MCU? Feige says it is, but for what's actually in the movie, it's more of a celebration of the Wolverine. Oh, what a party. Toot toot. After Hugh Jackman's incredible run, of course, everyone loves the character. But again, as I said, comic book fans will be particularly blown away by what this movie does. A lot of the references were a total surprise, even to me, and made me, as I said, just so incredibly happy. So happy, even more than the cameos. The Wolverine stuff is what I love the most. I'm very happy for Hugh Jackman, and I can't see him leaving the MCU anytime soon, considering how well he's being treated here. He is like a king, dare I say a god. I know some of you are like, why is that always the way with Wolverine? Well, when you see how good Hugh Jackman is here, who can complain? I don't see how another actor could step in so quickly after this movie to be the new Wolverine, because this is just, again, as I said, so incredible. Logan felt like a goodbye, but this feels very much like a hello. So you're like, definitely, you need to stick around. And I will add that if the other X-Men are treated with this kind of reverence, we could be in for something really special as X-Men fans. Although X-Men 97 already got the ball rolling. How R-rated is this movie? Because Marvel is, of course, now, and has been for quite some time, a Disney brand, and there are lots of kids who have been seeing all of the Marvel movies. But can they see this one? Well, it depends on if you'd let them watch the first two Deadpool movies. This is very much, even though like some things have changed, that element has stayed very much the same in terms of innuendo, gore, etc. In fact, it might even be a scooch more, to be honest with you. This is a very R-rated film, but it's not like The Boys, where it doesn't push. It's done in a very loving way, and most of it is verbal, particularly with the innuendo. However, I would also add that when it comes to children and kids enjoying this movie, there are a lot of jokes and commentary that are extremely meta. A lot of Hollywood business talk, which I loved, and I know many of you will appreciate as well, because, we talk about it all the time here, so you'll get those jokes. But it might be hard for some kids to follow. However, Deadpool and Wolverine look super cool. There's this crazy dog and lots of action. How is the action? Is it mostly just jokes, or is there action? I think there's quite a bit of action. In fact, I'd say there are 6 big action sequences sprinkled throughout the film. And not only are they a lot of fun, but they're very inventively staged, including being paired with really great and very funny song choices. I'm definitely getting the soundtrack for this film. I thought the song choices were truly inspired. Will Deadpool and Wolverine, do I think it will be a huge hit? If this doesn't pull audiences out of superhero fatigue, nothing will. You just couldn't ask for a better Marvel movie, in my opinion. The only potential hiccup might be that it's maybe too inside baseball for some people with all the Hollywood and Marvel conversation. But at this point, I think we're all having that conversation, so I don't think it should be a problem. Again, I just loved it. To me, it's not only the best Marvel movie since Endgame, but the best Marvel movie after Endgame overall. It's the second best Marvel MCU movie, I think. Deadpool and Wolverine has everything that made the MCU special and beloved in the first place, and everything that made Deadpool special and beloved in the first place, with a Wolverine swirl throughout. And that is just an amazing and delicious combination. I feel Deadpool and Wolverine, instead of the current trend of being nostalgic for classic comic book movies, is instantly a classic comic book movie itself. And you'll notice that a lot of these films, one of the things that made them work was their simplicity. And I would say that's a quality that Deadpool and Wolverine shares. Not to say there isn't an interesting plot and a lot of things going on, but it's streamlined. Again, as I said, focused. It's, and that's all I want to say. But I really appreciated that. I thought it made a difference. I would think the rewatchability factor would be insane. I can't wait to see it again. I'm seeing it again this weekend, and I'm super excited for it. In fact, if you're on a limited budget, instead of buying that popcorn bucket, they gave us them for free at the screening, I would use that money towards seeing it again. I think for people who see these movies like 8 to 10 times in theaters, I think this would definitely be one of those movies for you. The most I've ever seen a movie in theaters is 3 times, and I could see myself seeing this 3 times. I mean, I think streaming has eaten into that a little bit, how fast these things are on digital and streaming, but I just love this movie. I thought it was phenomenal. Now, speaking of snacks, what snack should you get? Well, of course, there's popcorn, and you might want to get that popcorn bucket before it sells out. Good luck. And there should also be free themed cups and regular popcorn containers at your theater. But one of you earlier today asked me, are there any other snack recommendations that I would have? And I thought about it, and I came up with peanut M&Ms, because Deadpool calls Wolverine Peanut throughout the film, and they're very bright and colorful like the movie. Also, you might want to treat yourself to a fizzy soda or an icy. I know a lot of us are off sugar, but you know what? This movie's a sugar rush itself. It's the summer. It's the biggest movie of the year. It's a return to form in so many ways, but yet also at the same time an exciting new chapter. Treat yourself to a soda with that snack. Finally, in a non-spoiler way, let's talk actors. As I said, Ryan Reynolds has a lot more toys to play with, but he instead of Feige, I think Feige stepped aside, it seems almost in some ways, for Ryan Reynolds, which was the right decision. And Ryan Reynolds is very much the conductor of this comic book madness, and it's just such a brilliant conductor. Deadpool talks nonstop through a lot of the film. In fact, it's commented on. And it's a credit to Ryan Reynolds that is highly entertaining. I've said before that Reynolds often reminds me of Robin Williams with his stream of consciousness banter and references to pop culture, but also history. Sometimes very, very intelligent jokes. Not to mention an ability to do drama as well. And I would say that just like Robin Williams' signature role in many ways was the genie to mass audiences, I would say that, again, Deadpool is Ryan Reynolds' signature film, and he is just a delight in it. Also, the genie, the ability to break the fourth wall and do all these crazy things and have these magical things happen. And, it is similar in some ways. Also, as I said, Feige clearly gave Ryan Reynolds total creative control. Just said, do whatever you want to do. And Reynolds turns up the comedy and the inventiveness, I would say, to an 11. It's like hanging out with a really good friend who's on a roll. And you're like, that was an amazing night. You were on fire. Hugh Jackman. Wow. At 55, he seems more like Wolverine than he ever has. Physically? Wait till you see him at the end of this movie. Oh my goodness. The movie made a big deal about it, and it deserved to be made a big deal about. I mean, wow. I've never seen Hugh Jackman look that good. I mean, I know he says it's difficult at this point, and I don't want him to do anything he doesn't want to do, but he looks super hot. And then also, his performance is also, he can also act. His performance is very good as well. Hollywood likes to recast most of its signature roles, and, many fans have encouraged that. But there is a real benefit to having a character be inhabited by a single actor for such a long time. The actor is allowed to become very in tune with that character, but also the audience can connect with it in a way that can't be done when you recast the roles. Because there's not only consistency, but we experience that evolution along with the actor. And I'd say that our relationship with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine at this point is truly special. I don't think there's anything else like it. Maybe Sean Connery is Bond to a degree, but I don't think there's been anything else like it in Hollywood, and it's truly something very special. Jackman has some great comedic moments himself, and he doesn't miss a beat with the action. Oh, there are some moves here that we're going to talk about. I was like, oh, where'd that come from? That's amazing. But I was also impressed with a lot of his emotional scenes as well. He's a great dramatic actor, as we all know. As for the other cast members that I can confirm, Emma Corrin is surprisingly good as Cassandra Nova, Charles Xavier's evil twin. Although her character is much more comedic than I expected. I was like, oh, silly? Wasn't expecting that. However, she was also far more powerful and dangerous than I expected. Also, they gave Corrin these extended fingers. At first, I was like, did they just cast someone with amazing hands? But no, I believe they were augmented, but very effectively. It was super cool. Just her manicure, too. I was like, that looks great. As for Matthew Macfadyen, he's basically playing Tom from Succession, but Tom from Succession was my favorite character, so I was delighted. As for other characters that, again, we already know are in the movie, their roles are quite small, but I would say that Rob Delaney is once again able to make a strong impression as Peter, as does Leslie Uggams as Blind Al. She's fantastic. So obviously, I think Deadpool and Wolverine is an amazing movie that I highly recommend you see in theaters at least once. I'd say the size of the screen isn't nearly as important as seeing it as soon as possible, so that nobody ruins any of these surprises for you. Get in there, see this movie. However, at the same time, I hope that you're able to see it with an engaged audience that adds to your experience rather than detracts from it. I still remember to this day, and I regret it, I went to one of those dine-in theaters for Endgame. You know, it was very hard to get tickets, as you recall. My press screening was phenomenal. Great audience interaction. But it was hard to get tickets, so my parents, I got opening weekend tickets for us, but we went to this dine-in theater where, you know, everybody's very separated, and the audience was just super quiet. And I don't think my parents ever really got that experience. And to this day, I feel very bad about it. So I would hate for that to happen to you. I mean, or you can create that experience yourself, as I did. Maybe because of that, that's why I did it while I was watching this movie. I'll psychoanalyze myself. That's why I think I did it, because to this day, I'm haunted by the fact that the audience was too quiet. So I was like, I'll just do it myself. But again, please be respectful of your fellow moviegoers and make sure that you're not disruptive of the movie, but instead are celebrating it. All right, so that's my non-spoiler review of Deadpool and Wolverine. Be sure to check back right here at the end of the week when the movie hits theaters here in North America. Some of you are getting to see it now. But when it hits theaters in North America, oh, do I have some fun spoiler coverage planned for us. All right, until then, share your thoughts down below. Beware spoilers. Beware spoilers. Be very careful. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.